Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach. And this is Dadvice TV Live episode number, I had to look, 313. Wow, 313 videos out here helping you live better with kidney disease. And tonight, this is something we do once a month. I have a very special guest on. It's your guys' favorite renal dietitian, and she is here to answer your questions during this live broadcast. So if you have questions, go ahead, type them into the comments, and she's going to start addressing as many of them as she can until 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So we got just under half an hour after I'm done with all my chatting to get through as many of your questions as possible. Now, before we jump into that, I do want to make one quick plug for a video I'll be doing Monday, August 12th, and it is about finding living kidney donors. It is a very important video, whether you need a kidney or you want to help others find living kidney donors. This is a show which will be extremely helpful. My guest is launching the first of its kind tool to help people find living kidney donors. And living kidneys, on average, last twice as long as a deceased kidney. All right, now let's go ahead and let me bring on my co-host. You all know her. You all love her from the amazing website and Facebook group, Plant Powered Kidneys. Please welcome renal dietitian Jen Hernandez. Hey, Jen, good evening.
Hi, James. Good evening. Good evening to everyone joining us live for this Q&A. Very excited to be chatting with you all about your questions about the renal diet and what nutrition can look like when it comes to eating to protect your kidney health. So my name is Jen. I am the founder and registered dietitian behind Plant Powered Kidneys, where we help people in all stages and situations of kidney disease eat better to protect their kidney health. And so you can get a ton of free resources and information on our website at that QR code right there at plantpoweredkidneys.com. We also have my Mastering Cronometer Masterclass available for you to register as well. And you can find that link on our website. And I believe James has it here in the notes for you as well. This is the very first thing I always recommend. And James, we've talked about it countless times. I mean, tracking your food and learning
about it on my phone.
Yes, it is just incredibly important. But one of the things I hear over and over again is really feeling confused, not even knowing what it's about, how to start. And I go through in this class basically how to set up Cronometer for yourself. So if you're interested in learning about what it looks like to do food tracking to protect your kidney health and really focusing on it from a kidney perspective, that's what the class is all about. So highly encourage you to check that out if you're interested in enrolling, because you're going to get a ton of information there to get you started on the right track. Now, all of that being said, I would love to start diving into your questions that you have for tonight so we can really talk a lot about kidney nutrition.
And look at this. We got one that just came in. They're coming in now, which is great. Our first one is from Jean, and Jean asks, how much protein can we have in plant-based smoothies?
So smoothies can be a really good, nutritious food, whether you use it as part of your meal, as a snack, or when you're just on the go and you need to have that smoothie as your meal. So the protein that you would be looking for in a smoothie, one, will depend on what exactly how you're using the smoothie. Like I said, is it a snack? Is it a meal? How nutritiously dense does it need to be? If you're using it as a meal, it's going to be on the higher side of protein. And when I say higher, we could mean anywhere from 10 grams if you're on a lower protein diet to 20 plus grams if you need more protein. So there's quite a big range there, but I can't get too specific, as we know there's so many different situations. So understanding what your protein needs are for the total day and then divvying that up across your meals and your snacks is going to be a really healthy way to be able to include more protein, particularly from plants, into your diet. And another thing too, just as an aside for plant proteins, is that plant proteins offers a bit more flexibility with the nutrients and even the protein itself. So what we find is a lot of people who focus solely on plants in their diet don't need to be so concerned or so worried about the protein in their diet when they're getting it from their plants. It's very interesting to see that difference compared to somebody who has a lot of meat in their diet, and then they need to be really careful about the portions and how often they have meat. So if you're doing a fully plant-based diet, there is a bit more flexibility there for some more plant protein.
Perfect. And I want to say hi to Sandy. Sandy is a regular. She says, my neighbor, she's just up north, right up there in Canada. Matter of fact, Sandy, my kids and I were just over in Windsor on Saturday. Had a great time at a water park and did a lot of shopping up there. One of my favorite weekend trips is hopping over the border and having some fun over there. All right, Debbie has a very common question, which I see quite a bit when it comes to eating things like fish or chicken. Debbie asks, what is the correct serving size when eating fish or chicken in a meal?
So again, kind of like what I was talking about with protein before, it can depend on how much protein you need for the day. So if you have maybe later stage kidney disease where you can't have a ton of protein, particularly animal protein, your protein portion for something like chicken or fish might be anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 ounces of that protein. And for reference, the size of your palm would be about 4 ounces of chicken, and your whole hand would be about that for fish, because fish is typically lighter, right? It doesn't feel as heavy or as dense as something like chicken does. So you can use that kind of to start off for a reference. But if you have to be careful with your animal proteins in the later, moderate to later stages of kidney disease, it might be a little bit smaller than your palm or your hand. So that's kind of what I would go with in general. But again, in some cases where you need more protein, like somebody who is on dialysis and has protein that is taken out through the treatments, they need to replenish their protein stores. They might need that full palm or that full hand portion amount of protein.
Yeah, I love learning about the sizes and using your hand. Which
It's so
living in Michigan, we use our hand all the time. Here's where I live, right here. But it makes it so easy when you're out eating to kind of eyeball it and say, yeah, that's about the right amount. The rest I'm going to take home for my next meal. All
Mhm.
right. Mom's Desi Kitchen asks, can CKD4 patients eat chia seeds and flax seeds? Oh, I love chia seeds. Mhm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate the CKD for specialized information there, but honestly, any stage of CKD can enjoy seeds like chia and flax seeds. And these are really nutritiously packed foods where a little goes a long way because they have nutrients like omega 3s, they have fiber, they have plant protein. They can do so much to support our health with all of the nutrition that they provide, and a little goes a long way. You can add just a tablespoon or so to that smoothie we were talking about earlier. You can mix flaxseed into oatmeal. You can use it as a thickener or even an egg replacement. You can actually mix flaxseed, ground flaxseed, with water and use it as an egg substitute in a recipe. You don't have to do it, but I mean, how cool is that to have that option for when you're baking something and you don't want to include eggs in it? It'll provide you with more omega 3s, which are really important and help reduce inflammation and support kidney health. So I think that that's a really great option, and including just a tablespoon or two can be really, really helpful.
Very good. Now, this goes back to our conversation at the beginning about using a food tracking app. Karen says, I don't like food apps like Cronometer. Is it okay to track my diet on paper? Could you answer that and talk also about some of the benefits of using an app so that Karen knows some of the time she might be able to save doing it in an app?
Yeah. Well, hi, Karen. We were just chatting on Facebook not too long ago. I think that if you want to do a paper tracking for your food, I think that can be a really good place to start when something like Chronometer is feeling a bit overwhelming. But the challenge with food or with the paper for food food journaling is that there's more room for error. And if you're looking up nutrition information, that can get super overwhelming to put all of it to paper and be adding everything up. Whereas something like Cronometer, there is this learning curve for sure. But I'm gonna shout out again that class that I have that walks you through a lot of the things to look at and talks about some tips and tricks of how to make it easier. But doing something like that, it will automatically calculate everything. It'll show you how close you are to your goals. It'll let you know what your goals should be, what you should be focusing on. And so it does kind of give you a bigger, I guess, more information from that picture. But I don't want to discount if it is overwhelming, if you just want to do pen to paper and keep something down like that for your diary. I think that is a great place to start. And at least you can do that and then show it to your doctor, look at your labs, have that communication. And then maybe from that point, you decide that you do want to do some more tracking and that you feel like it would be better to get an idea of maybe what's been going on. And another thing too about Cronometer that you could do, you can actually log in from past days. So if you don't want to have a lot of stress of like, I have to log my meal today, I have to do this before I eat, just try logging a couple of your past days. Think back and reflect on some of the meals that you have had, some of your most like common, typical, your go-to breakfast, go-to lunch, go-to dinner. Put those in Cronometer and see what that kind of information gives you, because it at least can show you what a typical day looks like. So you don't have to always think about it moving forward about what I have to be planning out, but you can use it to reflect and look back on some of the typical things that you eat to see how those line up with nutrition parameters that you have set.
Yeah, and one of the personal benefits I found using an app that helped me get used to using it was, especially in the beginning, I would put in things I was thinking of eating. Like, okay, if I go to lunch here, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this, have that. I'd put it in there, and then I'd say, whoa, that's way too much sodium, because you don't realize how quickly all those things add up. And I could sit there and go, okay, yeah, that one's too much. Let me take this out. And I could kind of test my meals, especially in the beginning, until I kind of got used to, okay, that's about the right amount. That's about the right amount. Now, I got to remember to go in and put them in there. Like, I remember whenever I'm going to go do my labs and have a doctor's appointment for a few weeks, I'm really good at putting everything in there so I can have it all for my doc.
I want to add to kind of along that same line. I actually just had a client today. We were talking about it, and she's been really diligent about food tracking. We've been working together since the beginning of the year. And I've actually, because her kidney function, her numbers have gotten so good, she's been able to maintain a GFR above 60 for like the past 3 months. Really, really good labs. So she's put in the work, and now I'm telling her, okay, let's pull back, and I don't need you worrying about tracking your food all the time. She has her go-to food. She has her meals and things that she wants to do and things that she just kind of like gravitates towards, and it's taking care of her kidneys. And so it's all of this to say that you don't have to think of something like Cronometer. You don't have to think of food logging as a forever endeavor and you're always going to do it. What I often do with my clients is we work on it in the beginning, we make some tweaks and changes, and then once we see the numbers getting better and that person is feeling more comfortable and confident in what they're doing, they don't need to track every day. They'll track maybe a couple days before a lab draw so they get a better reflection of what those numbers are going to mean. But in a day-to-day situation, when they've worked hard, improved their function, taken care of their health, it doesn't have to be a forever. So I just want to put that in there too, is that don't think of it like you have to do it from here on out. It's like investing into your future health so that you can live off those dividends later.
Perfect way to put it. All right, Linda asks, and we get this question quite often, are egg whites safe to eat?
Yeah, well, this is such a timely question because I just recently, I believe a week ago, published a new blog article on plantpoweredkidneys.com all about eggs. And so I talk about the whole egg, we talk about egg whites and egg yolks and what it looks like for kidney patients, how it fits into the diet. And egg whites are actually one of the easiest protein options to include. It's very, very low, basically negligible in phosphorus. It is a source of protein, so you do want to consider that for your protein goals for the day, but that's a good thing. It's another type of protein that you have the option to include in your diet if you want to have that as a protein. Now, whole eggs can also be included too, and those egg yolks are very nutritiously dense and they have a lot of good healthy fats. They do have some less healthy fats, but they also come with vitamin D and other nutrients. It's, there's a lot of things in there. So even including some whole eggs from time to time can be okay. But egg whites, I think, is for sure one of the easiest and safest options for a kidney patient to include. Again, just keep in mind that that portion amount can really jump up if you have a lot of it. So be careful not to overdo it. And one of the things that I really love to do is find ways to add more fruits and vegetables into that meal with egg whites to help make it even more nutritious, give more variety. And in particularly, I'm really looking at potassium and magnesium. Those are two things that the egg whites aren't going to provide, but are very important for kidney health. So getting other foods incorporated on the plate that do provide potassium and magnesium will make the egg whites that much better.
Great. And potassium is good for our hearts, especially at those earlier stages of kidney disease. All right. Michelle asked, how often should you have the mineral and vitamin levels tested in your blood when you're stage 2 or 3A? So her kidneys are functioning fairly well. Good, great for you, Michelle. But what do you recommend as far as getting labs to test for vitamins and minerals?
Well, I think this is such a good opportunity and something that not a lot of people think about testing. We think about our regular blood work, we think about our basic metabolic panel, our comprehensive metabolic panel, our A1C, our iron, we think about those, but vitamins and minerals can be really, really helpful to look at. So if this is something that your healthcare provider can do for you, I would 100% encourage you to get those levels tested. Now, the renal panel does look at some of those nutrients like potassium and sodium and sometimes phosphorus, but you can also look at magnesium and you can look at your B vitamins as well. Also your fat soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K. And you can see what those stores look like in your body. Now, how often should you have this done? I would say about once every 6 months could be a good place to start. And what's really important is not just getting those labs drawn, not just looking at the numbers, but talking with your healthcare provider about those results and coming up with a plan. I can't tell you the number of times I have heard people say that they just go and get their labs rechecked every month or every 2 months, but they don't have a plan in place as far as what they're actually doing to see a change in the numbers. They're just constantly getting them checked. And that can lead to a lot of stress and anxiety and frustration when you don't have a plan in place. So get that first check, look at the numbers that you really want to target and talk with your healthcare provider about maybe anything that's outlying and what you want to do, whether it's supplementing or focusing on food in the diet, which is my first go-to. But doing that and then talk about, okay, when are we getting this redrawn? And kind of going back to Cronometer, like how am I going to be assessing if I'm actually meeting these goals?
I love that. Have a plan. And that's where Cronometer helped me. If I saw something was too high or even too low, for me in the beginning, sodium was something that took me a while to get it right. I went too low. Um, I could look back at what was I eating. Aha, there's where I can adjust that, add some more or take some away to help keep me in range for my labs. Now, Debbie has a wonderful question. What are some good sweet snacks? She's tired of fruit. I would say I'm always looking for snacks that are cheaper than fruit.
Yeah, I get that. And fruit by itself can be, okay. It has its place, and every now and then it can be a good thing. But sometimes we're looking for a different option. One of the things that I really enjoy, and I actually had it earlier this morning in between clients was a Kind bar. And this is a nut bar that has some added sugar. It has some chocolate or sweetener to it. But overall, the nutrition profile is really good. And they use whole foods, which I like. They don't have additives in there. And it does provide you with some plant protein and some fiber. So you get a little nutritious bang for your buck, I would say. So that would be an example of something that I would like. But also, you could potentially look at modifying or making a change to your fruit so that it is more enjoyable. So I'm going to tie another topic that we just recently had. So let's say chia seeds, you could use those and you could blend that with some blueberries and maybe some vanilla almond milk or something like that. And you could make a blended chia seed pudding. And it could be really simple, just a few ingredients. It still includes some fruit, but it's not just eating a handful of blueberries. So you can maybe make a little bit of a change like that. And chia seed pudding, I think, is a great snack. Again, just a couple tablespoons mixed into like a quarter, half cup of almond milk or whatever milk you're using, and then add in either some blended fruit or some fruit pieces or some frozen fruit even. And it can be a really nice snack that has some texture to it.
Very good. And there was also the one you made. I remember I made it. It was the yogurt and the stuff in it and in the pan. I don't remember what you called it. Like it was
Frozen
almost like
yogurt bark.
yeah, it's almost like yogurt bark. There you go. I'll say it was like peanut brittle, but it was with yogurt and you put stuff in it. It was delicious.
Yeah, that's a really fun one too. You just spread the yogurt on a baking tray and sprinkle it with whatever types of, think of like yogurt toppings, but in a different form. You just sprinkle that all over your yogurt and you freeze it. And then when it comes out, you break it into bite-sized pieces or handheld pieces. And you get to enjoy a frozen yogurt that has some different textures and flavors from whatever you put onto it.
Yep, I remember doing that with my kids. They loved it. They made patterns and faces in it and
Oh,
stuff. Now, Michelle also asked any recommendations on plant-based cookbooks. Did any come to mind? I can't think of any, but I've gotten to the point where I go to the Facebook group, plantpoweredkidneys.com, lots of recipe ideas from other people, and then I just keep experimenting.
yeah. Yeah, there's so many great recipes that a lot of our members on our Facebook group share. And it's really, really fun to see all the things that people come up with because we're all cooks in different ways and we have our kind of go-to recipes and things. So it's really fun to just kind of surf in that area and see what other people are doing. But I will say I had several cookbooks out yesterday, Monday, when I was doing my meal planning for the week. And so the two that I had out was Vegan Instant Pot, and it's by Nisha, who goes by Rainbow Plant Life. And I love her. I think I harass her in DMs on Instagram when I'm telling her how much I love her and all of her stuff. But she has really good Instant Pot recipes that mostly are one pot because you use the Instant Pot, but they turn out so good. I really like them. And then another one, and this one is a little controversial, but I'll just say, like, I'll give you a warning. It's by this group called Bad Manners, and they have very adult language in their cookbook. So you have to be okay with adult language. But it's kind of funny, and their recipes are really good. I'm actually going to make their chili mac tomorrow. So I think that's a really fun one too. And then I did see recently that one of my colleagues, Catherine at Plant Based RD, she just came out with her cookbook, Peaceful, which I haven't seen. I need to get it. It's been on I think I was looking at it for the pre-order and I lost track of time, but that's definitely one that I want to check out too. It's not kidney specific, but it is plant-based. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, when you incorporate more plants, even coming from your proteins, you do have more flexibility with your diet. So I think even those kinds of options can still work for people with kidney disease when they use all plants.
Great. 3 fantastic suggestions. All right. So Angel Me says she was recently diagnosed stage 5. She's not on dialysis. Fantastic. And she's changed her eating habits and she's wondering about fast food. any recommendations? And we actually did a video about this a while ago about things to go for at different fast food restaurants. And she says El Polo Loco. Boy, I miss El Polo Loco. I used to live in Southern California. Love that place.
Yeah, there's definitely, and it's important for us to have good options when we go out, because we are not just going to hermit and stay inside and never go out to eat. It's important for many reasons for us to go out. So some of the things that I would recommend is, one, be really, really mindful of sodium throughout your entire day, because it's very difficult to find a low sodium fast food meal, and you're probably going to be spending a good chunk of your sodium budget for the day when you go out to eat. So keep that in mind. Low sodium, not really going to happen, but try to find the lowest sodium options you can, and that can go a long way. Another thing is, anytime that you have an option to load up on vegetables, do that. And so for something like Mexican food, this is a really good opportunity where you can have a lot of lettuce and pico de gallo and different salsas. You can have tons of fajita veggies. You can have tons of vegetables added into your meal. And there's almost always at least one type of bean dish or side dish available too. And having some beans will add more protein and fiber into your diet and can be a really, really good option. So including some beans in the diet as well is going to be helpful. Now the rice, if you like rice, if you want to have some, you can definitely include some of that. It's not necessarily going to provide a ton of nutrition. It does provide you carbohydrates. It's not going to provide fiber like the beans do. But if it's something that you want to have as part of your plate, make sure you just allot some of that for yourself. And I'll say once again, another shout out to Cronometer, because they have restaurant food items in there, and you can do a search. You can find and try out different foods from different restaurants to see how it fits into your whole day, how that nutrition all stacks up. So you can also go somewhere like that to just kind of play around with what they have. And also, when you're looking at anything like a meat protein, just be mindful that there's potentially added phosphates because of the preservation. How these companies, they have to distribute their food to all their different franchises. They have to get it across the country. So just be mindful that a lot of things can come with phosphates. And if your phosphorus is a concern, then I would be super, super careful with frequency, how often you're going out to eat, or even talking with your doctor about your phosphorus, and if there's anything they can do, like a phosphorus binder that you could take with your meat, can help keep your phosphorus down. But there's a lot of different options there. So hopefully that gives some ideas.
Yeah, and I'd like to add one warning or one thing to keep an eye on when you do eat at a restaurant. It sounds healthy, the plant-based meats. You're like, oh wow, I can get. I believe there's still the Impossible Whopper at Burger King, but some of those things, be careful. They are so loaded with sodium. You could end up eating the majority of your daily sodium allowance in one piece of something. It's shocking how much sodium is a lot of those. And you think, oh, plant-based, it sounds healthy, but gotta watch out. And that's where using a food tracking app is really, really helpful, or going to the restaurant's website, digging around takes effort, and finding the nutritional information.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sandy also mentioned popcorn, another great snack to have. I love popcorn. I love adding stuff to it to give it some more flavor, especially like spices. Fantastic right there. All right, let's see what else we have. Cucumbers. Are they okay to eat with kidney disease? I actually know someone who eats a lot of cucumbers, and she was worried and asked me about that.
Oh, I think cucumbers are a great option. I can't tell you the nutritional parameters right off the top of my head, but I do know that they can absolutely fit into a renal diet. Now, they are a pretty water heavy vegetable. So you know that because when you break open that cucumber, it is almost like spilling with water. It's very, very liquidy. So I'm just saying that because if you have a fluid restriction, you want to remember that foods like cucumbers can add up into your daily fluid allowance. So if you have a set amount, like milliliters or liters to drink per day that your doctor specifically has told you specifically to stick to, don't forget about watery foods like cucumbers. Otherwise, cucumbers nutritionally are great for kidney patients. They're a great, easy vegetable to include in a renal diet. I think they're perfect to add into salads, to even make sandwiches with them, to use as a dip with hummus or any other. I know one of my clients was really big into cucumbers and cream cheese. That was her kind of snack that she would do. So there's a lot of good options there.
I love cream cheese. When I used to scramble eggs, which isn't very often, I put a little cream cheese in there. That's like my secret way to make them
I remember
extra
you telling me
delicious.
about that.
Yeah, I love. I like. Well, I had to go from eating all this awful food that my body was so used to eating for so long to eating healthier. And during my transition, I discovered a lot of cool things. And I wasn't a fan of eggs in the beginning. I was like, oh, they're kind of plain, but a little bit of cream cheese mixed in there. Holy cow. Then I discovered spices and whole new world. All right,
Yeah.
we are almost out of time. Linda asks the difference in eating yogurts. There's so many different kinds. Are there any that you recommend that are better than others?
Um, I mean, yeah, there's so many different kinds out there. I feel like I've talked a lot about yogurt lately. I was just talking with a client about it today. There are a lot of different varieties. One of the things that I like to look for yogurt for kidney patients are finding some with the cultures in it, the probiotics. That could be really, really great. Now, whether it comes from a cow's milk base or a cashew base or a coconut base, there's not a ton of I'm not going to say like I'm going to push any of them out. I will say something like Greek yogurt is very high in protein. And so if you are somebody who should not be having a high protein diet, like a lot of moderate stage or later stage CKD patients, something like Greek yogurt could take a really big chunk of your protein for the day. I'm thinking specifically of one of my clients that her target is about 35 grams of protein per day. So if she had a container of Greek yogurt, that's going to be almost 50% of her whole protein for the day. So in some of those cases, I would say just be careful with the Greek yogurt. But otherwise, different types of yogurt can be a great thing to include in the diet. Even doing something like a low fat regular yogurt, that is awesome and does provide some protein, but also think about what else you can add to it. So I like to use something that's a bit more on the plain side for yogurt, and then you can just customize it however you want. Because when you get something plain, you get to add in whatever fruit you like. You could do canned or frozen. You can add in your own sweetener like honey or maple syrup, or even some jam of a different fruit flavor to have some different variety in there. And then also with that plain yogurt, you could make it savory, and you could make like that cucumber, you could do a tzatziki sauce, and you could do something that has a savory flavor, or you could use it as a substitute for sour cream on tacos or a taco casserole. So getting something that's just plain unsweetened, not a lot of fuss, is going to be a really easy, safe bet. And then you just get to add whatever you like. Put in those chia seeds, put in some flax seeds, get a lot of nutrition packed in there that's good for your kidney health.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is the end of our time today. Do you want to mention your Cronometer class one more time in case anyone missed the very beginning when you mentioned that?
Sure. Yeah, you can find the information for our Cronometer masterclass at plantpoweredkidneys.com. Just go under our resources and our classes and courses. This is a class that you can enroll and take where I teach you all about how to use food tracking to take care of your kidney health. Cronometer is actually a very general, broad food journal, but I talk about it with that kidney nutrition lens perspective. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then I highly recommend you take that class so that you can learn more about what food tracking can look like for you and your kidney health.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jen. All of you out there, Jen is here every single month. We have a half an hour answering your questions. You get to get in here, type them in, and we try to get to as many of them as we can. So if you jump in early, chances are your question is going to get answered. I want to thank everyone out there for participating today. Please give the video a thumbs up, share it. Let's get the word out. There's great information here for everyone. Visit the Plant Powered Kidneys website, also the Plant Powered Kidneys Facebook group. Fantastic information, so much helpful ideas for foods. It's positive and supportive. That's one of the most important things I like about it. And I will be back next Monday with an amazing video talking about finding a living kidney donor. You're not going to want to miss that. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, everyone out there, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.